Hi, IWF. We're here with Ann Drake. Welcome, Ann. Thanks for being with us today. I know we share you with Chicago, but talk to us about your professional journey and what brings you to Florida some of the time.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you and get to know other members better. And, that's takes me right to what's important about IWF Miami. I mean, I've been here now 13 years, coming and going from Chicago, coming, going, coming, going, coming, going, never staying long enough, knowing it's my long-term goal is to stay here forever, but not close to that one yet. But from the very beginning, people were so welcoming at IWF. I mean, everybody was, it's the most welcoming group I've ever been involved with. People knew that I was, someone they didn't know. They reached out to me at our wonderful meetings, and having the meetings on, Monday nights so you can put on your calendar was so helpful to me. It was, every single person was just very, very outward and very inclusive and very interested in me. So, the group has really got something going for it. So I'm proud to say it's been 13 years. And last year they did something administratively in Washington, where you had to declare, even if you were a member of two forums, you had to declare which one was your lead forum. So I chose Miami. So I'm on the
so we can claim you, and now you're just a visitor in Chicago.
Yeah, I had to choose, so that's what I chose. So that might be slightly interesting to everybody.
That's great. Well, talk to us about your professional journey. I know you're a superstar in logistics, but how did that come to be?
Thank you. So my business career is about 40 years old, and the most important part of the story is I am my father's only son. That sort of tells you what you need to know. So that means I'm highly motivated to succeed and make things happen and not sit still, because that's how he was. And I have a lot of engineering in my head, even though I wasn't an engineer, because he was an engineer also. And about 40 years ago, I went to business school at Kellogg at Northwestern, which I highly recommend. And I am getting to know them a lot in Coral Gables, which has been really fun. They have a lot going on here in Miami. Coming out of that experience, my father invited me to go on the company's board. And it was a small company, sort of a bad neighborhood, and I'd never been very interested in it. And but I said, okay, Dad, I guess that's a good idea. I mean, after all, you have accounting and people and HR like any other business. So yes, I'd be happy to come on that board. So a few years after that experience, I actually said, this looks like an interesting future. It was logistics and technology and globalization. This is in the 90s, and that's what everybody was impacted by at that time. So I wrote a reorganizational plan for the company and put myself on the org chart as Executive Vice President of Culture and Strategy, and suggested that I come there to learn the business and work there, which is what I did. So that's the start. And 30 years in that career, such an exciting place to be on a good day and horrible on a bad day, because it was all about collaboration, which I knew how to do, and all about getting people together, which I knew how to do. But then there were those days when nobody wanted to collaborate, nobody wanted to be together. So basically, I spent a lot of years learning how to do that. That sort of led me to what I'm doing now, which is I did sell that company just before the pandemic. Thank you very much. And I am now involved in women's leadership for women in those fields: chain, business, technology, engineering, infrastructure design, and I'm very interested in space and astrophysics and getting women ahead in that field. And so that's enough for a short answer.
Well, you, I saw on the internet a number of awards, and a number of awards for you as one of the only women in supply chain and logistics. Is there a particular professional achievement you're proud of?
Oh, well, thank you. And I would say definitely the one I'm most proud of. I've been very lucky. I've had a lot of, had a lot of honors and other things, and I'm sort of shy about that. But this particular one was the first time in 47 years a woman had won it. It's called the Service Award for the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. And it was just awesome winning the award. And what was awesome about it is our industry, where there are not that many women, certainly none then, 5, 8, 10 years ago, that at that time, I sort of felt like I was invisible. Everywhere I went, I felt like I was invisible. And I think, those of you who have been in male-dominated fields know what I'm talking about. It's what people I've read articles where sometimes that's how Black people describe what their experience is like, because they go places and they're invisible. And so I felt like I was invisible. And nobody would talk to me or, turn around or whatever. So after I got the award, they all came running after me. So suddenly I was a rock star. I hadn't changed a thing. But the industry had noticed me, and everybody knew who that woman was that won the award. So it did give me a platform for being more outward regarding women, and for wanting to do something to make sure that I gave back, so that these things didn't happen to other women.
Yeah, well, and congratulations on selling the company. Tell us more about what you're doing now with uplifting women, and then don't forget to talk about Lincoln Road.
Okay, thanks. So today, I have 3 organizations I'm involved with. I founded them all. One is called Awesome, Achieving Women's Excellence in Supply Chain, Operations, Management, and Education. And that is an organization I founded 11 years ago when I was still working in the field as CEO. It was founded in our marketing department. Our idea was to, make women more visible and be more visible to women, and find women in projects and service providers and big companies who were involved in logistics, and get them together so they could begin to network, and we could provide programming and information to them that would help them rise up, do better, and connect with others. So it was quite successful. We thought there would be less than 500 women in the U.S. at the time, and we really went looking for them one at a time. And we read about somebody in a magazine article, and we'd send them a note and whatever. And pretty soon we had, and we were looking for women at certain levels, at least director or senior director and above in major corporations, or in $100 million service provider or larger corporations. And our network is now 1,500 women, and there's probably many more out there now. So part of it was the right time. We get a little bit of credit, but just a little. And part of it was, the pandemic has really broke open the field to the world, and women have really been successful during the pandemic, generally, because they just work harder. They work harder, and they make the connections, and they make things happen. And so it's been exciting to see our women moving ahead, and they're getting, into higher levels in their organizations. So that's one organization that we run. Then Lincoln Road is the second one that we started, to take those principles of learning to these other fields, to engineering, technology, space and astrophysics, to infrastructure design of cities and communities and transportation systems, and engineering and technology, I name that. But we got started just before the pandemic, so I can't say we've got huge accomplishments into that arena, but we're back on track. I have a staff of 9 people in Chicago that are wonderful. So we're working hard to try to figure out how to break into those fields and find more women and connect them. So that's Lincoln Road. Then lastly, Women's Leadership Center is our third organization. So we founded that a couple years ago when I lakefront Virgin Woods property in Wisconsin. Well, Williams Bay is the name of the town. And the property just spoke to me and said, Women's Leadership Center. And so I've been involved now for 2.5 years. I'm involved with Jeannie of Studio Gang, an woman architect who's getting more and more famous by the second. 5 times on some work she did at, I forget the museum in New York. And I know she's working on the expressway system in Chicago. And
Which needs help.
which needs help. Yeah. And so working with her and her firm, they are Chicago based, so it's been very interesting getting to know them, the culture, how they work together, what they do. It's been quite an experience. So we have plans that are ready to go. So we have 25,000 square feet of Women's Leadership Center where we intend to convene women in our various fields of interest. And some will apply for like a grant to come there. And it's very much in the woods, and it'll be very nature based and very casual, you know, nothing better than tennis shoes anywhere, all that kind of thing. But an elegant facility, I mean, elegantly on the casual side, spectacular views and really cool buildings when we're done. But right now we're in the middle of getting through the village leadership. And like all projects that I've learned about too late, they all take a whole lot longer and a whole lot more than you've ever dreamed of. It will be the hardest thing I ever did when we get to the village here. So we have no shovel in the ground. We're hoping for March, and it'll be a couple of years in the making. But meanwhile, we're not standing still. We convene another number of groups. In fact, I'd like to work with IWF Miami and figure out how to do something with them this year in a similar fashion to what we did in Chicago with 4 different women's groups this summer. And we basically talked about what our plans are, but we're open to modifying them and changing them and getting good ideas from other people. The meetings were highly successful. So I'd really like to branch out of Chicago. That was easiest to bring people up there to do this similar kind of thing. So my goal is to put women at the front of organizations in these 5 fields and to get them in a position to make things happen, to make the world a better place. And I'm not just interested in the numbers or percentages or this or that. I'm interested in, I believe women have leadership skills and working together skills that help are really what we need in this crazy century that we live in. So I want to help them get there so they can invent great things and help our world get better.
Amazing. Well, let us know at IWF how we can help.
Okay.
Tell me what you're learning about now.
Oh, I'm learning a lot about village government. I'm learning a lot about engineering for buildings. I'm learning a lot about water flow and calculations. Not necessarily anything that's going to be really handy the rest of my life. But in the end, everything is people and communication. So I learn about people and communication, you know, every single day. I mean, no matter what, right? I'm a big learner. I like to learn. I like to do. I mean, my father is as the father of me, the only son. I mean, it was never okay if you sat still and read a book ever. The bad news is I don't read books. I mean, I'm okay
We'll
with
talk about podcasts later then instead of books.
Podcast, but a whole book from the beginning to end. Oh my gosh, I have a lot of them. I want to. I sometimes read the beginning, but then anyway, I give them to friends and say, "Read this and tell me what it says." So,
audiobooks so you can multitask.
Yes, it's the way I was raised. What can I say? So I'm always interested in learning. Everything out there I find fascinating. So,
tell me the best advice you've ever received.
Well, I listen and learn from everybody around me. I mean, I'm always listening and learning. So I thought about that question a little bit and thought, I think the best is learn when to walk away. And boy, that's hard to do because I always feel like, okay, give it one more punch or one more piece of energy or one more day and I can fix it. Sometimes both interpersonally and in business and certainly other situations, that's just not the case. And you have to give up on whatever you've invested in. And, they say don't throw good money after bad. And you have to say, so I think that's, really, 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 really hard to do. But there are times when you have to do it. And I think I'm going to share this is on YouTube, but it's sort of personal network. So I was married to an alcoholic, and I finally said to myself, whoever he was or could be, he isn't. Walk away. Wow. So, and there's plenty of people out there, that are in the middle of difficult decisions, I'm sure. And again, just as much with business as with personal things.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I'm sure that's going to resonate with other of our members, related to all kinds of things. Tell me about the most exciting or memorable adventure you've been on outside of your career.
That was a good question, and I had to think about that. And I would say a couple of trips I took with wonderful granddaughters. So I'm very lucky. I have two stepdaughters grown and four almost grown granddaughters. So they have been just, the most important thing in my life. And inspired by the IWF trip we took to Galapagos about 13-ish years ago, I remember being on that trip and saying to myself, I want to bring the girls, but I have to wait till the twins were pretty young then, are a little older. And so it took another 8 years or so, but we planned a family trip, and that included one new husband, one old husband, somebody else that was not quite part of the group. But we took the same ship we took by accident. We picked the time period and it was the same ship. We did do the National Geographic, not National Geographic, what's the name of it? Lindblau, the New York firm that ran those trips.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And believe it or not, I stayed in the same room. How did I know that? Because they knew it in New York. Somehow they made the association and saw the room. There aren't a lot of singles. I was in a single room both times. And they said, you are in the very same room. So I got to relive that trip when we went to some different places. It wasn't all the same. With four wonderful granddaughters, and the youngest was 5. It was perfect. So everything, of course, is just the most incredible trip ever. Everybody who sees this or hasn't done this has got to hook up with a friend and go do this, because it's just beyond imagination. So,
Yeah.
and secondly was a trip to Africa with the same crew. I was a little nervous about that trip. Say both of them, they're sort of, what's going to happen to us, and is it safe, and they're ready to come home with all their arms and legs and all that. So, but it also was a few years later, just a marvelous trip. So I would say focus on granddaughters, and whatever they want to do it.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah.
Tell us a fact about you we wouldn't find on the internet.
Yeah, I had fun thinking that. What else out there? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess you wouldn't find that I used to have a English Springer Spaniel, and he was my best friend. I was only child. His name was Timothy McGann Terridge. We called him Tim. And I do love dogs, but I love them as long as they belong to somebody else. So, although sometimes I think, oh, that would be so fun. There's so many dogs everywhere these days, and so many kinds, but they are such incredible companions, always friendly and always positive. They don't complain very much. So, yeah, I would say that, because dogs are in my life today, you might not hear that Timothy was an extremely important part of my life once upon a time.
Nice. Okay, a couple fun questions to wrap up. What book, I guess not books, but what television or podcast are you recommending now?
Yeah, I actually tried to think of a book. So Sally Helgeson is my favorite self-help author, and I recommend her. And she hasn't written millions of books. And I should qualify that. I do read women's leadership books.
Of course.
I read Harvard Business Review every month, have
Yeah.
for 5 years. So that's why I went to her. And can I recall the title of either one of them right this minute? Well, there's 3 I like. I can't, but she hasn't written that many books. So if you look up Sally Helgeson, Helgensen, she is a New York Forum member, and she's just the best. I mean, she really understands what it's like to be a woman in business, and she has a real people orientation, leadership style. We actually brought her into Chicago, and she spoke to our forum 8 years ago or so. It was just awesome. People just loved
Maybe
it.
we should bring her down here.
Well, maybe we should. So put that on somebody's list, and I might be able to entice her to do that. Yeah. So she knows me. She knows I like her books. And yeah, so that's my best idea.
And okay, last question. If you were in charge of the playlist, what song would be playing next?
I love the Beatles. I mean, I don't care what it is. They're such happy songs, the melodies we all know. What was I listening to the other day? I couldn't believe it. What's her name? The Mrs. somebody. Who was it? Oh, I can hear it in my head. I can't think right now, but it was about a woman. It's not Mrs. Robinson, that's the wrong group, but it was somebody. Okay. So, but I love the Beatles. And that's what's really nice about today, being able to get, whatever you want, wherever you want it. I listen to music mostly in my car. So it's sort of my relaxing time, believe it or not, when I drive long, because I had traffic. So I love being able to, just pick my interesting person I want to listen to it in my car. So I recommend the Beatles, no matter what your age.
Great. Well, thanks for being here, and I appreciate your time, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.